Hey everyone! Welcome back to your favorite pirate crew! Today we're going to see about Kaido aligning to the Straw Hat crew. If you would like to see more about One Piece in our channel, please leave your thumbs up and subscribe to join our pirate crew! One of the things we'd like to see most in One Piece during the end of the Wano arc is for sure the downfall and finalization of all the villains present, such as Orochi, the blessed one who keeps coming and going, and of course Kaido. Speculations that his defeat will come very soon are not lacking, as well as the possibility that One Piece will finally bring deaths of other characters instead of arresting or letting them pass. Well, in fact, in the case of Kaido, Big Mom and Orochi, letting them go after all they've done is not a possibility, right? At the very least, their defeat will bring a nice cage or a decent finish. At least, that's the wish of many in the fandom. But what if we go further? What if we can imagine that Kaido not only stays alive at the end of the whole clash, but ends up becoming a future ally of Luffy? Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But yeah, it may not be impossible to imagine. And here's another bombshell. Big Mom can also become an eventual ally. But how? Why? This and much more you'll need to see in today's video, so stay tuned. Kaido of the Beasts, also known as the strongest creature in the world, is the general governor of the Beast Pirates, and one of the 4 Yonko's, alongside Big Mom, another extremely powerful Yonko, who has been terrorizing the world for almost 3 arcs now. The two have teamed up to conquer the world and defeat the Straw Hats. However, before all that, decades ago, before he formed his own crew, Kaido was part of the legendary pirates Rocks as an apprentice. They were a group of legendary and powerful pirates who sailed the seas 38 years into the main story, led by Rocks D. Jirek, and were considered the most dangerous and strongest pirate crew of their time. Other famous crew members were Charlotte Linlin, or our Big Mom, and Edward Newgate, our late Whitebeard. The Rocks pirates were extremely powerful, but their quest for power and fame led them to be very violent with friends and foe alike, which caused them to kill their own comrades constantly, and resulted in the gang not being well known for the generations to come. The strength of the crew, however, at the time led them to become the most threatening organization to the world government. So the government decided to cover up their actions with the goal of becoming the most powerful military force in the world. They had at least 3 or 4 future Yonko's in their crew. Eventually, it took the combined strength of Gold D. Roger and Monkey D. Garp to defeat them with difficulty. Sengoku claimed that Jibek is no longer alive. Years later, the remnants of the Rocks pirates would create their own tribulations with goals of their own. Although Kaido, like his former fellow crew members of the Pirate Rocks, is not a person who shows respect or any sentimentality towards others, or even towards his former teammates. He is someone who is very open to making alliances if the goals of both parties are met, and he sees the need to do so. This becomes clear to us. First, when Big Mom, despite everything, seems to at least respect Kaido's power. In contrast, Kaido, for his part, also shows no respect for Linlin, referring to her as an old witch. Furthermore, when, upon receiving news that Big Mom was going to Wano in order to kill Luffy, Kaido refuses to cooperate with her and threatens to kill her if she were to go there. He apparently had a debt with her a very long time ago, which he tried to ignore, but Big Mom used this firmly against him as something of a lifetime debt. Wanting to avoid a war with her, Kaido ordered everyone to sink the Queen Mama chanter before they could dock. However, after a fight that lasted hours and hours, besides cutting through the sky and scaring everyone, Kaido and Big Mom, after a good drink, unite in an alliance to conquer the world. But, well, let's focus on another rather important piece of information here as well. Kaido's flashback during the creation of his own crew. In chapter 1035, one of the most curious things about the Yonko from that time was that he seemed like someone who was very happy and smiling, who firmly claimed that he was the only person that could change the world. But as we all know now, Kaido is now an alcoholic who only wishes his own demise, and even seemed to be envious of Whitebeard when he discovered that he had achieved this while he had not. Do you ever stop to think about why this change occurred over the years? In chapter 1014, when Kaido defeated Luffy, he said, "You couldn't be Joy Boy either." Either implies that there was someone else that he imagined could have been and wasn't. Or rather, probably when younger, Kaido believed that he was Joy Boy, or would eventually become Joy Boy. That is why he told the king that he was the only possible person that could change and take over the world. However, in this period of time, something occurred that made him realize that he was in fact not Joy Boy, which changed him completely. Perhaps this is even the reason why Kaido is in Wano, for after the discoveries of Roger's crew in Laugh Tale, Oden returned to Wano to begin preparations to welcome the return of Joy Boy by opening the closed land. plans. However, eventually, their plans went down the drain thanks to Orochi and Kaido, who arrived to take over and destroy the country. Kaido seemed to be looking for the next Joy Boy for some reason, perhaps in order to be killed by him, or to join him after finding out that he could never become him. This may have a connection to how Shanks and the others prevented Kaido from going to Marineford. One interesting thing to note is that how Kaido recruited King was quite similar to how Luffy recruited Zoro. There's a clear parallel between Luffy and Kaido, and perhaps the Yonko sees his younger self in him before he loses his hopes and dreams of conquering the world. In light of this, a few things may occur with Luffy's awakening as Joy Boy that will eventually make Kaido suspicious of where the Mugiwara's powers came from, and if, in fact, he will be able to discover the truth behind it all. At the very least, we can be sure that Kaido went after finding the truth about the legend of the Great Joy Boy, which made him discover about the determination of the person who could inherit his legends, and should have made him hunt for the possibility to conquer the world and become stronger and stronger. However, the next Joy Boy had long ago been chosen by the Nika fruit itself, perhaps being able to know who could awaken the maximum as Nika, or rather as Joy Boy. It's also possible that Jibet knew something about the mysteries of the poneglyphs and the lost century. Not necessarily the full story, but a piece of it, as it is worth noting that Big Mom already owned one of the poneglyphs on the road before Roger successfully circumnavigated the Grand Line. However, another piece of information quite a bit to note is that very few people probably knew of the true importance of the poneglyphs, as the ability to read it was passed down within the Kazuki clan, and since Wano was aggressively unaffiliated with the world government and simultaneously a self-isolating country where the punishment for leaving was death, it is likely that the ability left Wano over the centuries, prior to that of Odin. It is possible that other individuals over the years had the ability to hear the voice of all things, but there's no way to be sure. Also, one might wonder why the world government never did anything about the poneglyphs before the modern era, when they, in theory, could easily remove the chance for anyone to interact with them to get to Laugh Tale. As a whole, it is still tricky to connect the information we have with certainty. But leaving aside that part of One Piece's mysteries and theories, let's focus on the main point of the video. Would Kaido join Luffy knowing that he is, or rather was, able to awaken as Nika, as Joy Boy? We can bring two possible answers to these questions. The first, and almost impossible in view of what we have reviewed regarding the Yonko's history, is that yes, he would unite, assuming that Kaido sought to find Joy Boy, regardless of whether he could become him or not. Finding out that Luffy has awakened as the one everyone has been waiting for years would probably leave him surprised. Due to his nature and pride, he may be far from happy, but perhaps, as occurred with Big Mom earlier in the Wano arc, he may make an excuse to join Luffy and the others as an ally in the future, with Linlin falling, albeit with difficulty, but having a strong relationship with some of the Mugiwaras and part of his people and crew of Whole Cake. The chances are not so low should they give Big Mom what she wants and tame her, as occurred in a piece of Wano, although on that occasion she was with amnesia. The second answer, and perhaps the most obvious, is no, he would not bond. Firstly, because it seems Kaido became very depressed and very ill at ease upon discovering that he would never be able to become Joy Boy, making his personality and actions even worse over time. Perhaps this made him angry at the legacy and the person who would be reborn as him, causing him to go after Wano just so that he can find such an individual. Over time, perhaps he started to lose his will to continue living, even though he was one of the most powerful beings in the entire world, being able to finally conquer the world. It wasn't enough. Maybe his greed was not satiated enough, and he found himself destroying everything around him, of course, without caring about anything, because as we've already seen, the Rocks Pirates had this aggressive and horrible nature since forever. It is to be expected that they would continue this way, or even get worse over time. We can imagine two situations in the face of this. Either Kaido kicks off without discovering the truth, dying at the hands of the person he most wanted to become, and of the one who reminded him of his young and ambitious version of himself. Or he kicks the bucket knowing this, perhaps angry at this fate, or finally being satiated of his desire to finally be gone. But what about Big Mom? Apparently Big Mom has already been defeated in this arc, and is not expected to return anytime soon. We have no way of imagining what her views are regarding Joy Boy, since nothing about that has been highlighted. However, we can assume that at least those who Luffy and the others were able to help and bond with wholeheartedly at Whole Cake will proudly return to join the Mugiwaras as allies in the fight against the world government, especially now that the great liberator and savior has returned, and still bringing the downfall of not just one, but two Yonkuos. But what about you? What do you think about all that we've discussed? Will Kaido and Big Mom really ground this arc, or is there a possibility that both will become Luffy's ally, or perhaps return as antagonists again? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Well, that's it, my Mugiwara. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any suggestions for a future video, don't forget to comment below, because I'll be reading them all, as I always do. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any content from your pirate crew.